My name is Marcus Wellington, and at 52 years old, I was told I was too expensive, too outdated, and, though they'd never say it directly, too black to continue leading the company I'd spent 23 years building. They voted me out on a Tuesday morning in March. 11 board members. 10 votes to remove me as CEO. 1 abstention. Not a single vote in my favor. The stated reason: organizational restructuring to remain competitive in a rapidly evolving marketplace. The real reason: I was a black man who'd risen too high, stayed too long, and made too many white executives uncomfortable with my success. This is the story of how they tried to bury me, and how I bought the shovel and buried them instead. I joined Wellington Tech in 1998, fresh out of Stanford Business School. The company was small, 35 employees, $8 million in annual revenue, operating out of a converted warehouse in Oakland. The founder, Robert Wellington, was a white man in his 60s who'd built the company on military contracts. He was tired, his health failing. He needed someone hungry and smart to take Wellington Tech into the 21st century. He hired me as VP of Operations. I was 29 years old and the only black executive in the building. "You're going to face resistance," Robert told me on my first day. "Not everyone will be comfortable reporting to someone who looks like you. But I hired you to make this company money. Do that, and we'll be fine." Within my first month, 3 senior managers requested transfers rather than report to me. 2 quit outright. I heard the whispers: diversity hire, affirmative action, but I focused on results. I restructured our supply chain and cut costs by 22%. I renegotiated contracts with the Department of Defense and increased margins by 30%. Within 2 years, our revenue had doubled. Within 5 years, we'd gone public. Within 10 years, I was COO, and Wellington Tech was pulling in $400 million annually. Robert made me CEO when I was 41. "You earned this," he told me from his hospital bed. He was dying of pancreatic cancer. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." He died 3 weeks later. His daughter Jessica, blonde, blue-eyed, Stanford graduate, 38 years old, was furious that her father had left his company in my hands instead of hers. She became a board member 6 months later. Her first act was to vote against my salary increase. From 2009 to 2019, Wellington Tech thrived. We expanded into cloud computing, AI, and data analytics. We acquired 3 competitors. Our stock price increased 400%. I was featured in Forbes, Fortune, and Black Enterprise. I spoke at conferences. I was invited to the White House twice. I hired intentionally, not to fill quotas, but because I knew how much talent was being overlooked in communities of color. I built internship programs with HBCUs. By 2019, Wellington Tech was 40% people of color and 45% women, industry-leading numbers. But with every black engineer I promoted, every Latino woman I hired into leadership, I felt the board's temperature dropping. Jessica was always the most vocal. "Are we hiring the best candidates, or just checking boxes? We can't sacrifice quality for diversity. Shareholders are concerned about the optics." In board meetings, she questioned everything. If I proposed expanding into a new market, she wanted 3 more studies. If I recommended an acquisition, she demanded alternatives. Nothing was ever good enough. In 2018, I proposed acquiring a cybersecurity firm called SecureNet for $200 million. Jessica and 5 others voted against it. 6 months later, our competitor bought SecureNet for $180 million. They're now the industry leader in cybersecurity. I proposed investing $30 million in AI-driven analytics. Jessica called it a vanity project. The board tabled it. Our competitors invested in AI. They're now worth twice what Wellington Tech is. Every strategic move I tried, Jessica blocked. I was being strangled by bureaucracy and bad faith. COVID-19 hit in March 2020. I moved the entire company remote within a week. I restructured operations and pivoted to remote work solutions, video conferencing security, cloud infrastructure, data protection. We didn't just survive. We thrived. While competitors laid off employees, we hired. While they posted losses, we posted 35% revenue increase. By end of 2021, Wellington Tech was worth $1.2 billion. I was named Tech Executive of the Year by Industry Week. Instead of celebrating, Jessica called an emergency board meeting. "We need to discuss Marcus's tenure," she announced. "The company has grown, but we've outgrown his leadership style. We need fresh vision, new direction, succession planning. I was 51. I'd just delivered the most profitable 2 years in company history. They were already planning to replace me. What concerns you about my leadership? I asked. It's not personal, Marcus, Jessica said. Your approach is dated. We need leadership that reflects where the industry is going, not where it's been. Our stock price has increased 400% under my leadership, I said. What metric determines my leadership is inadequate? Silence. Harold Chun, a venture capitalist board member, spoke up. Leadership is about more than quarterly results. It's about cultural fit, long-term vision, and frankly, optics. The industry is changing. Our competitors have younger, more dynamic leadership. We need to think about what Wellington Tech looks like in 5 years, and whether you're the right person to take us there. Younger, dynamic, cultural fit, optics, code words for not black. Are you asking me to resign? I asked. We're asking you to consider what's best for the company, Jessica said. I am what's best for this company. If the board disagrees, call for a vote of no confidence. Until then, let's get back to actually running the business. I walked out knowing they were going to remove me. It was just a matter of when. They waited until March 2022, 2 months after I turned 52. I came prepared with my attorney on speed dial, documentation of every racist comment, every blocked initiative, every instance of Jessica and her coalition undermining me. If they wanted to fire me, I'd make them pay. Jessica opened the meeting. The board has concluded we need new leadership. We're prepared to offer a generous severance in exchange for your resignation. I'm not resigning, I said. Then we'll vote, she replied. On what grounds? What metric am I failing? Harold jumped in. This isn't about metrics. It's about vision. The board feels Wellington Tech needs leadership more aligned with where the industry is heading. Let me be clear, I said. You're removing a CEO who increased company value 400%, navigated a pandemic better than competitors, consistently delivered double-digit growth. You're doing it because you're uncomfortable with a black man in this position. Let's call it what it is. Silence. That's a serious accusation, Jessica said. This has nothing to do with race. Then explain why what's best only became a concern after I implemented diversity initiatives. Explain why every proposal I've made in 3 years has been blocked. Explain why my leadership is dated despite record performance. Explain it without referencing my age, cultural fit, or optics. No one spoke. You want me gone because I make you uncomfortable. Because I hire people who don't look like you. I've documented everything. Every comment, every blocked initiative, every discrimination instance. If you vote to remove me, I'll sue for racial discrimination, age discrimination, and wrongful termination. And I'll win. It'll cost you more than you imagine. Legal fees, settlements, reputation damage, stock price collapse. I paused. Pay me 3 years' salary, $9 million, plus immediate vesting of stock options, plus non-disparagement, and I'll walk quietly. Or vote me out and spend 5 years in court watching this company tank as I make this the most public discrimination case in tech history. They deliberated 2 hours. When they returned, 11 board members, 10 votes to terminate, 1 abstention. They fired me, and I chose to destroy them. I filed the lawsuit 3 days later. Marcus Wellington versus Wellington Tech Incorporated, et al. Claims: racial discrimination, age discrimination, wrongful termination, breach of contract. Damages sought: $50 million. My attorney, Patricia Morrison, a black woman who'd made her career destroying discriminatory corporations, filed with extensive documentation. Emails questioning my cultural fit. Transcripts suggesting we needed younger energy. Performance reviews showing excellence followed by manufactured concerns after increased diversity hiring. The lawsuit landed like a bomb. Wellington Tech's stock dropped 15% the first week. Major clients asked questions. Employees I'd hired began speaking out about hostile culture. The New York Times, tech company accused of ousting black CEO despite record growth. Forbes, Marcus Wellington's lawsuit exposes racial fault lines in tech leadership. Wellington Tech offered $15 million to settle. I turned it down. I want to go to trial. I want discovery. I want every email, every transcript public. But while the lawsuit consumed everyone's attention, I was working on something else. Wellington Tech was publicly traded. Anyone could buy stock. And when a company is in a discrimination lawsuit, when stock prices tank, that's when stock becomes cheap. I started buying in May 2022. Not in my name. That would trigger disclosures. Through LLCs, trusts, and investment vehicles. I bought during every dip. Every time lawsuit news worsened, every time quarterly results disappointed, I bought more. Wellington Tech had peaked at $180 per share when I was CEO. After my firing and the lawsuit, it dropped to $95. I bought at $95, $87, $82, $76. By November 2022, I owned 8%. By March 2023, 11%, now requiring SEC disclosure. That's when the board realized what I was doing. But it was too late. Their new CEO, Brad Harrison, a white man Jessica handpicked, was a disaster. Under him, they lost 3 major contracts. Revenue dropped 20%. Stock kept falling. And I kept buying. By August 2023, I owned 18%. By December 2023, 23%. I was now the largest shareholder in the company that had fired me. In January 2024, Wellington Tech offered $35 million, full vesting of stock options, public apology, and policy changes. Take it, Patricia advised. Historic settlement. I want one more thing, I said. A board seat. They fired you. They won't. They will if it's part of the settlement. Or we go to trial. Wellington Tech's attorneys nearly had a stroke. Absolutely not. Then we'll see you in court. 3 days later, 1 board seat. Non-voting observer status for the first year. Voting member with full authority. That's the deal. Jessica fought it. But other board members, concerned about legal exposure, overruled her. February 2024. I received $35 million, stock options worth $12 million, public apology, and a board seat. I walked back into that boardroom in March 2024, exactly 2 years after they'd voted me out. Jessica looked like she wanted to murder me. I smiled and took my seat. As a board member, I had access to everything. Financial records, strategic plans, client contracts. What I found was catastrophic. Revenue down 35% from my leadership. 3 largest clients gone. Employee turnover at 40%. Wellington Tech had gone from $1.2 billion to $650 million. They destroyed half its value in 2 years. I started calling investors. Brad Harrison is running this into the ground. Jessica cares more about control than growth. I increased value 400% as CEO. Give me your proxy votes, and I'll do it again. Most remembered my track record. Most were frustrated watching the decline. Most didn't care about politics. They cared about returns. By August 2024, I had proxy commitments representing 31% of stock. Combined with my 23% ownership, I controlled 54% of voting shares. I called a special shareholders meeting for September 2024. Agenda: vote of no confidence in current board leadership and proposal for board restructuring. Jessica rallied her coalition. She gave speeches about my hostile takeover and circumventing authority. But I wasn't circumventing anything. I was using the same mechanism they'd used to fire me, a vote. The difference was, I had the votes. September 15th, 2024, the vote wasn't close. 67% of shareholders voted to remove Jessica, Harold, and 4 others who'd voted against me, replacing them with my nominated directors. The new board voted unanimously to remove Brad Harrison as CEO. Then they voted unanimously to reinstate me. At 54 years old, 2.5 years after being fired, I walked back into Wellington Tech as CEO. Not as a favor. As the owner of 23% and the leader chosen by a supermajority of shareholders. My first day back, I called an all-hands meeting. 2.5 years ago, I was removed as CEO. The stated reason was restructuring. The real reason was that certain board members were uncomfortable with my race and my commitment to diversity. They replaced me with someone more compliant. Result? We've lost 35% of revenue, major clients, talented employees, and half our stock value. This company is in the worst shape in 15 years. But I didn't come back to point fingers. I came back to fix this. Over 90 days, we're rebuilding. We're reaching out to lost clients. We're investing in people who stayed. We're returning to innovation and excellence. Are you with me? The applause was thunderous. But there were consequences for those who tried to destroy me. Brad Harrison resigned before I could fire him. But I started with his chief operating officer, David Miller. Young, white, Stanford MBA, failing upward. David, I've reviewed your performance. Operations costs up 40%, efficiency down 25%. We've missed delivery on 7 major contracts. Explain. Market conditions have been challenging. Our competitors faced the same conditions. They didn't see 40% cost increase. What specifically have you done? Silence. I'm terminating your employment effective immediately. You can't fire me. This is retaliatory. No. This is a business decision based on documented poor performance. If you'd like to file a complaint, feel free. I've been through worse. I did the same with 5 other executives. Each got performance review, documented failures, and termination for cause. Legal, clean, justified, but also deeply satisfying. Then I rebuilt. I called every major client we'd lost personally. I apologized and guaranteed return to quality. Within 6 months, we'd won back 4 of 7 major clients. I implemented immediate 15% raises for anyone with 3+ years. I restored diversity initiatives, mentorship programs, HBCU internships. I allocated $50 million toward AI development, cybersecurity innovation, cloud infrastructure, everything the board had blocked before. By March 2025, 1 year after retaking control, Wellington Tech stock was back to $140 per share. We'd gone from $650 million to $950 million value. Revenue up 28%. Employee retention 92%. Client satisfaction highest in 3 years. Wellington Tech was back. And I was finally, truly, in control. People ask if I'm angry. If I hate Jessica and the board who voted me out. If I wake up thinking about revenge. The answer is complicated. Am I angry? Yes. What they did was racist, illegal, and morally bankrupt. Do I hate them? No. Hate is exhausting. I don't have time for that. Do I think about revenge? Every day? But not destruction. Success. Being so good it becomes undeniable. Building something so valuable, even people who tried to tear me down must admit I was right. That's the best revenge. Not making them suffer. Making them watch me succeed. Here's what I learned. Document everything. Every email, every comment, every discrimination instance. I won because I had proof. Build allies before you need them. I could buy Wellington Tech because I'd spent 23 years building relationships with investors, clients, employees who believed in me. Success is the best revenge, but it has to be real. I couldn't just buy the company and run it into the ground. I had to make it successful again. Racism in corporate America is real, systemic, and expensive. Wellington Tech lost half its value because white executives would rather destroy a billion-dollar company than accept black leadership. You can win. This is important. You can fight and win. It's hard, expensive, takes years. But you can win. I'm proof. It's February 2026. I'm 56. Wellington Tech is worth $1.4 billion, more than ever. We're profitable, growing, leading in innovation. I still own 23%, worth $322 million at current prices. Combined with settlement money, stock options, and salary, I'm worth about $380 million. Forbes puts me at number 47 on their Black Billionaires list, working on that. Jessica sold her shares in 2025 and left the board. I heard she's in Santa Barbara. I hope she's happy. Her father built a good company, and she almost destroyed it because she couldn't accept that someone who didn't look like her was a better leader. I think about Robert Wellington sometimes, the man who gave me my first opportunity. I think he'd be proud of what I've done. Disappointed in Jessica, but mostly proud I didn't let them destroy what he and I built. I still work 70-hour weeks. Still push for innovation. Still fight for diversity. Not to prove anything. I've proven everything, but because I genuinely believe in the work. Every time I walk into that boardroom, I remember the day they voted me out. The faces of people who said I was too old, too expensive, too black to lead. And I smile, because they were wrong. And I won.